The South, 4.9 billion people, 4/5 of humanity with 3/4 of the Earth's land surface area, largely bypassed by the benefits of prosperity and progress, existing on the periphery. The North-South divide of affluence and poverty, of plenty and survival, of economies strong, resilient, and economies weak, defenseless, of countries in control of their destiny and countries very vulnerable, lacking in functional sovereignty. The South epitomizes diversity, countries very small and very large, with natural resources abundant and meager, differences in cultures, political systems and ideologies, differences in structure of economies and level of development. Yet in this diversity there is a basic unity which transcends their differences, a shared identity and common aspirations. And this diversity offers opportunities for cooperation that can benefit all countries of the South, opening new vistas for development based on geographical proximity, relevance of development experience, and availability of complementary natural and financial resources, management and technical skills. The diversity in levels of development offers additional possibilities of trade. Today, South-South cooperation offers developing countries a strategic means for pursuing relatively autonomous paths of development suited to the needs and aspirations of their people. On their own, most countries of the South may not be able to exploit the economies of scale or meet the critical minimum of resources required for research and development and strengthening their scientific and technological capabilities, or even deal with the well-organized groupings of the North or with transnational corporations. South solidarity and South-South cooperation become an imperative now. India recognizes this imperative, and today the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program, popularly known as ITEC, has become a major and credible worldwide institution of South-South cooperation. Launched 35 years ago in 1964 as part of India's commitment to share the Indian development experience with countries which had recently emerged from colonial rule, ITEC now has a reach covering more than 130 countries worldwide. India has provided more than $2 billion worth of technical assistance to developing countries under ITEC and other programs. From establishing a rice research institute and buffalo and forage research center in Vietnam to hospitals and vocational training centers in Mauritius and Afghanistan, ITEC assisted countries in Asia, Africa and Latin America to build their infrastructure facilities. ITEC is best remembered for the conservation of the Angkor Wat temple in Cambodia at a cost of $3 million in the late 80s. The Archaeological Survey of India worked for 7 years for saving Angkor, and India received rich tributes from conservationists all over the world, apart from the people of Cambodia. India's experience shows that development, if it has to succeed, has to be self-reliant, self-directed and people-centered. Progress in agriculture has been one of the biggest success stories of free India. From a nation dependent on food imports to feed its people, India is not only self-sufficient in food grain production, it has a substantial reserve. Science and technology has been at the core of India's development strategy. India has the third largest scientific and technical manpower in the world. Significant achievements have been made in the areas of nuclear and space sciences, biotechnology, electronics and information technology. What is the relevance of the Indian development experience, you may well ask, unless one can see it being replicated in some small ways through ITEC projects. India is the second largest producer of milk in the world, and at the vanguard of this white revolution is the National Dairy Development Board, which has set up a mini dairy at Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan at a cost of 438,000 US dollars. The dairy has a capacity of producing 8,000 liters per day. The entire plant was manufactured in India, skid-mounted and airlifted to Kyrgyzstan and installed by Indian engineers in record time. Like in many remote villages of India, the photovoltaic revolution is being brought to rural communities in Cuba, Costa Rica, Mali, Syria, Oman, Bangladesh and Indonesia by ITEC. India's pioneer in photovoltaic systems, the Central Electronics Limited, is at the cutting edge of technology and is geared to bring solar power to other developing countries cost-effectively. Today, India is recognized as one of the world leaders in the field of remote sensing. Sharing this frontline technology with Mauritius is ITEC. The Indian Space Research Organization has set up a remote sensing center in Mauritius to provide remote sensing data analysis and interpretation expertise for assessment and management of different resources critical to the island nation's well-being. The Remote Sensing Center will provide data on agriculture, especially the sugarcane crop, land-water resources, fisheries and minerals. The small-scale sector plays a critical role in India's economy. The sector contributes 40% of India's total export and employs 15 million people in 3 million units. It generates employment second only to agriculture. For developing economies with scarce capital, small-scale enterprises are a boon because they require less capital input and the projects can be implemented in shorter timeframes. ITEC has been promoting the small-scale industries idea through the National Small Industries Corporation and the Development Commissioner for Small-Scale Industries. Training centers have come up in Mongolia, Mauritius, Trinidad and Tobago, and Vietnam, and there are ongoing projects in Senegal, Namibia, Guyana and Zimbabwe. India is not a rich country and cannot match the grants in aid on offer from the developed world. Yet, resources in terms of manpower skills and appropriate technologies gives India a cutting edge. Indeed, the ingenuity displayed by Indian scientists, engineers and technocrats to develop appropriate technologies can only be described as heroic, or we can call it the poor man's industrial revolution. The ITEC program includes setting up of projects, deputation of experts and conducting study tours. But today, ITEC lays more stress on its training programs. The decision taken by India 50 years ago to invest heavily in institutions of higher education, including scientific and technical education, has resulted in ITEC being in a position to place these quality training programs at the service of developing countries. ITEC classrooms and laboratories are spread all over the country. Training is offered in a wide variety of subjects. The spectrum includes agriculture, information technology, diplomacy, entrepreneurial development, low-income housing technology, marine and aeronautical engineering, environmental management, and hydrography. Today, there are more than 11,000 ITEC-trained alumni spread across the world. ITEC also provides military training at India's top defense academies. Last year, 1,416 civilian and military personnel have used this vast reservoir of training resources. To get an insight into the training programs, our cameras followed ITEC's trainees into their classrooms and labs. We talked to a few of them.
India also a tropical country, so for my research work, I think it's the same. They cannot manage the quality of the soil inoculums in the forest. So last year, the project lost nearly 3 million seedlings of Pinus mercury. So all the things I can learn here, I will apply in my country.
Even though I worked at one of the places which primarily job is to collect information, manipulate the information, and present the information in such a way that it reflects the impact of how the people has been determined, developed, and utilized. I thought I had known a lot being a statistician and doing these things at home. But I learned new concepts, many. I learned new applications, techniques on how to improve myself in how to, when I go back to my country, how could I contribute into my economy?
We just train. There's no systematic planning. So we need, people like, program like this, so that now that I've gone through this program, I believe that when I go and I get to the national level, at the micro level, I am going to help the management of National Vocational Training Institute so that we will actually now plan systematically, looking at the requirement of the industry.
A vibrant democracy with a strong pluralistic flavor, India provides a fertile training ground for a TV journalist, as it did for Victoria Pine from Ghana. Here, Victoria covers a national workshop on the right to information and meets top-notch journalists, activists and political leaders.
Social justice, which is the cornerstone of India's constitution, can be achieved when people have right to information.
In this brief report, we could only touch upon some aspects of the ITEC program. Efforts are already underway to bring in new areas of Indian expertise to ITEC partner countries. These include dairy research, hotel management, pharmaceutical research, oceanography, and wildlife management. Developing countries are now looking to India as an emerging information technology superpower. Jay Naidu, the telecommunications minister of South Africa, told us,
India is the third biggest information technology power in the world, and they are certainly on the way to becoming an IT superpower. In fact, India produces 115,000 engineering science graduates a year, just from the universities and technicons. We will learn a lot in terms of taking information technology education into the most marginalized of South African areas.
this means that in the years to come, many more developing countries would like to avail of the ITEC program, and the sheer spread and diversity of its activities is bound to increase. Also, at a time when developing countries are facing increasing pressure from the IMF and the World Bank to downsize and restructure, combined with a steep decline in ODA flows and growing competition in the global market, the ITEC program will have to be further reinforced. ITEC symbolizes the South's common objective of peace, equity, justice, and dignity for all.